but I was impressed by its size, so I dried it partially and have now saved it.
Tell me again what that is.
It's ash. I got it from my mate Martin, who's a professional wood arboriculturalist, actually. Ash, which I like to call the crematorium oak. So at the local crem, they put a new fence in, and to do it they had to destroy a fair bunch of trees. And I got several big pieces of oak, and these will burn for a long time. It's very, very powerful firewood. It's very dry. Well, this is a piece of pear wood. Now, all fruit wood it's got a bit of a, it's just nice. It smells nice when it's burned. And my idea was to produce lots of small but sawn and measured planks. But it transpires you need a certain sort of, if you're going to do it without getting so much waste, we could do it on a circular saw, but again, the blades are thick, you're going to lose a lot of the wood. I particularly wanted doing on a bandsaw. But most bandsaws in most of the factories around here, you cut out things like this on them. So you've got guys or girls working freehand, pushing it through and occasionally taking off the tips of their fingers. And freehand, you can't, the guy that did this for me is a skilled bloke, but you can see he gave up in the end. You can't do it evenly. You need, I think he said what I needed was something called a reband saw or a rebar saw. It's a sort of bandsaw that's got a means of holding the wood securely whilst it's planked accurately. And to be fair, I'll probably end up putting a bow saw through this and just using it for kindling. Things.
And you've done that to make it into a seat, or?
I can't explain, Adam. I can't explain. I bought the saw. It was last winter, and I had the saw. These are super things. I don't know a deal about them, except that they'll give you a very super cut, a very fine cut. And one of I think it's this side, the slightly coarser one, is for ripping, which is cutting along the grain. Right. You appreciate most of your cuts are across the grain, but and it gives cut timber with this. I've got a couple more.
Because I missed the beginning.
So these are more Japanese saws. They're not very expensive. This one, I think this one's called a razor saw. Very, very fine teeth, which gives you a very, very fine cut. I think that's a piece of oak, and it feels like it's been sanded, and it hasn't. It's just been cut with this. What else can I tell you? I went through a period where I was experimenting with the moisture content. So I chop up a chunk like this and weigh it and write down the weight on the thing, weigh it in grams, and when cracks start to appear 3 weeks later, you know it's lost some weight. You weigh it again, and I did this quite a bit. And my conclusion is you can get just under a third out of it. So different woods differ. Ash notoriously never carries much moisture, winter or summer. But most of the woods, about a third or slightly under 1/3 of their weight is moisture, which you'd be best to unload if you can.
Tell us about your bow saw.
Oh, well, this is a bow saw. I've had it for many years. I can't honestly remember where. I certainly didn't buy it. And it's a bit like the broom in the joke, in that the frame I've had the frame for many years, but the blade, the important bit, gets replaced 2, sometimes 3 times a year. I always buy high quality blades. The brand name is Bacho. I recently bought them, they're about £9 each, which is very expensive. I recently saw one in a local hardware shop for about £3. I thought, oh, bargain. And it was terrible, it was absolutely rubbish. So these, buy high quality blades, I would say.
So can I make a comment?
Of course you can.
So over here, behind Adam's legs, there's quite a neat stack of wood, but over here it's quite dishevelled.
Ah, well, it's chaotic here because I've had a very good season of wood collecting. None of this wood, none of it has been paid for. All of this wood is from the sweat of my brow.
For example?
For example, well, having said that, 1 or 2 bits have been given to me by Martin, my neighbour. If we get a load, we swap, you know, he gives me a bit. I'll talk you through some of it though. This is pear wood.
How can you tell?
Because I was told, I mean, I can recognise the bark, but you know, Martin cut that down and he told me about it. You can tell that's ash, obviously. This is hawthorn. Now hawthorn, the poem says, hawthorn bakes the sweetest bread. It's very slow growing, it's very dense, and it's probably if I could only have one sort of logs, I'd probably go for hawthorn. I'm very fond of hawthorn. What else have we got? This is cherry. You can recognise that by the bark. I think this is horse chestnut. It burns, it's not brilliant, but it burns. This is one of the maples, quite a nice one. That might be, well, it's just quite a nice bark on it, but it's fairly fresh. That is laurel.
Oh.
Laurel? Yes, laurel, it is, so almost black in the bark. And I can't identify that. And then, you see, I've got lots
Oh, you've
more.
got a lot more up there, haven't you?
This is crematorium oak, which is drying nicely. You see these are known as the medulla rays.
Oh.
On oak, but it's all creme. It's all grown up in an atmosphere of burning bodies. Which, and because it's under this ex-army British tent, this is drying out, and this is my big guns for when it's properly cold. At the moment, it's not cold at all. So
Where did you get the ex-army?
that was a place
Tent.
it's not in Rippers. It's Steam Mill Lane, near Ripley. I can't remember the name of the place, but it's very good and it's a bargain. £10 for an enormous piece. Right, shall we just we'll demonstrate the use of the bow saw on a piece of fairly fresh cherry wood.
Grand.
I'll just fetch the bow saw.
Excellent. Footage from that's Jeeves the cat.
So this is a piece of cherry. I've actually kept it in the house for about probably a couple of months. You can get a rough idea of its level of wetness or otherwise just by looking at when you see the cracks in the end grain. That means it's drying out a bit. It was stood up like this, so I predict that the bottom might not even be cracked, and it isn't. So when it was first put down, when it was truly fresh, it had newspaper underneath it, and every morning I was changing the newspaper because it was wet and I didn't want to
Show me the other end again.
damage my floor. There's the dry end. That's gravity in action for you folks. Right, and this is a brilliant sawhorse.
Wow.
It's a replica, an exact replica of one that was given to me by a neighbour probably 15-20 years ago, made out of inferior wood from an inferior tree, and and it was starting to rot because it stays outside. But because I was such an admirer of the design, I went out and bought, this is my gauge.
Oh, show me again what you're doing with the gauge.
Well, what I'm doing with the gauge is, you do not want to be in a position on a cold night in January where you go outside and pick up an enormous log and then come inside and find you can't fit it in the fire.
Yes.
Because you have to take it back out again, you might burn your fingers. So you have a gauge to know the maximum size of your fire. And what I'm actually going to do here is do this in 3 parts, because I'll have to cut it 3 times anyway. If you watch, can you see that? So rather than have one correct bit and one too long bit, I'll cut 3 thinnish bits.
What's your gauge made of?
The gauge, and that's probably hazel. But the thing is, to mark it, you see I've got blue paint, I've used it for stirring paint, but it's useful. And this blade is relatively fresh. It's not done a deal of work, and it just flies through. I could buy a chainsaw, but I object to them really. My neighbours wouldn't have me. I do a lot of sawing. They make a lot of noise and a lot of mess. They're very efficient. I mean, Martin, the professional woodman, he loves his chainsaw and wouldn't use anything else. And also, I need the exercise. I'm not a gym goer, and you'll notice I use alternate arms. So I used to produce quite a lot, I still do quite a lot of sawdust sometimes, and I just sweep it up and chuck it away. I used to put it on the compost heap, but I'm not sure that that's helpful really. But you do have to sweep it up because you don't want it getting shot into the house.
What would you use it for, the sawdust?
Soaking up spit and blood in a rough pub. It's all different stuff I produce as well. This sawdust off cherry and off oak, it stains the ground. So if you're sawing when the ground is wet, when the concrete below is wet, it oxidises, so this wood will turn to an orangey colour very quickly once it's been exposed to the air. And so does the sawdust, and it actually stains the ground. You could probably make photographs with it. You know, if you put a leaf down,
Oh yeah,
and put sawdust all around it, and then
make a silhouette.
wet it. Yes. There we go. And I've got no pressure of time, you see, so I often spend an hour or so very happily sawdust sawing.
Tell us why you don't have any pressure of time.
I don't have any pressure of time because I don't go to work. I've packed in working almost exactly a year ago on the grounds of a diagnosis of COPD, ruined lungs, completely my own fault for smoking for 30 odd years. And the people I work for said that they would give me, for the rest of my life until I die, £137 a week, and I wouldn't have to go to work, they'd still give it to me. And I thought that was quite a good deal. So that's why there's no, well, it's a paradox really, because there is a pressure of time, but I'm very happy not to go to work and to embrace the slow living lifestyle.
So you're obviously saving some money on your electricity bills by
Oh.
burning your wood. So that must help with your budget of £137 a week.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's rather strange that my gas bill is much higher in the summer when I'm not heating all my downstairs water with free firewood. If you see what I mean. We could do a quick split if you'd like,
Go
for
on then.
demonstration purposes, although it's not really necessary. I'm just looking for a good, we'll do it on this. So in fact, this is a good candidate. This is a piece of pear that my professional friend provided. Now I have got, you'll have seen, I've got a big fat splitting axe which I would normally use, and I'm just demonstrating the use of wedges. It's quite annoying. It must be annoying for the neighbours.
Show me that.
So this is a broken axe, and it's very good for starting off. Now when you're splitting, it's always best if you can go through the very centre, and I think that's where it is, because it seems to me that these things are happier to split like that. And so far I've been doing this for years and years and haven't suffered a major hand injury.
Wow.
And obviously it would be more efficient if I had a handle on this, but again, I've got plenty of time and I need to use more energy. So it's like me going to the gym.
It's a workout.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
And it should go. And you can see I did get that centre line, which is this little runnel of pith
Wow.
right up the middle. So there you go, that's the splitting. So the splitting is quite a good idea, because if they're split they'll dry faster because they've got and they'll burn. It's not always good for them to have them burn fast. If you're putting a piece of wood on lasting at night, you want the fire to still be warm in the morning. You put on the biggest feasible piece, because it'll burn the slowest. And I think that's probably the end of today's
Words of woody wisdom.
Words of Woody Wisdom.